Meme review. Who's that from, guys? Come on. All right, a day like today in the market where you get absolutely freaking schlapped. We gotta start off with two little things that we got rocking here. I made this meme by myself. It was trade offer. I receive a large check of money, a printer, and insider information for trading. You receive inflation, small business shutdowns, and gaslighting, baby. Not a bad gig, huh? Not a bad deal. And secondary, in the sport and in the good mood and fun of Spider-Man and the NFTs that are being issued by AMC and Sony Pictures, I just threw this together as a nice replacement for my previous desktop background, which was also Rich Greenfield, by the way. But I thought that would be a pleasant thing to look at, and I think this is actually a fairly new picture of him. It's not bad. These glasses, they look like glasses, dude. That's absolutely something. Guys, what is up? How are we doing? It's your boy Trey, coming back again for another freaking video, and today I'm going to be talking about AMC stock. I want to talk about what's happening with inflation, what's happening with the feds, why did the stock market pull back the way it did. Then I also want to dive into something pretty fascinating here, which was these tickets for the Spider-Man No Way Home movie that were going for $25,000 on eBay. Guys, the price of AMC, in case you're wondering, is in the 30s. You do you. I'm just playing. But nonetheless, we got quite a bit to talk about. I am going to go over the charts as well. So let's just dive into the video. So today, my friends, as we know, AMC had a rough day, right? The entire market had a rough day. SPY finished down 1.95%, and this came after some news from Jerome Powell. He came out and he spoke about inflation. Now, inflation, in case you do not know, is a pretty basic idea of supply and demand, right? So if all of a sudden you increase supply, demand goes down. In this case, supply is the US dollar, so if you print more money, the value of each dollar or the demand will decrease overall. And in the last 18 to 24 months, right, a year and a half to 2 year period of time, a lot of money has been printed. In fact, about 40% of all existing currency in the U.S. Economy was printed in that period of time when COVID hit really bad. And Jerome Powell came out today and said it's time to retire the word transitory, in which he self-labeled, I think Unusual Whales on Twitter said it best, he self-labeled inflation as transitory, as if it was something that would not exist for a long period of time. But this is obviously a very long time coming, right? We can see this sort of coming in the midst of the last couple of months. If you look at the inflation rates, right? 2021, you can see it started off nice. January, February, March, it's slowly ramped up. That does not look transitory. Transitory meaning it is not permanent. It's not something that's going to last forever. In fact, October had a 6.2% inflation rate year over year comparatively to 2008 that stomps any of those months with high inflation, and 2008 being the year in which you saw the housing market crash. Right? So this is very obviously predictable. In fact, I talked about this briefly today in a short, but I just imagine the conversation that had to happen behind the scenes with Jerome Powell and his lackeys. Like they might have just sat there and been like, you know what? How are we going to convince these guys that this is not a problem? Like I just don't know how you'd look at anything else in any other way, but the Band-Aid's starting to leak a little bit, right? I'm not here to tell you that I'm predicting a market crash. We've seen the freaking can get kicked down the road a million times, and this bled over into AMC stock, right? We see that here today, and I saw a lot of people discussing negative beta. Negative beta being the idea of a stock with negative beta typically does not react in the same way that the overall general market does. AMC has that negative beta, meaning that, hypothetically speaking, it should not tank when the market pulls back. But I do think there are some holes in that, and one of the main holes that I kind of pull away is the amount of small to medium cap index funds that hold AMC. For example, Vanguard just recently reported 4.2 million shares worth of AMC on November 29th, right? They, by the very definition, are a mid-cap value index fund. So if they're holding AMC and the SPY takes a pullback, that's the overall market, right? Even if institutions own 20% of the stock, that's enough to push the stock price down, right? 20% is a pretty decent margin size on the overall price. And I do think that's what you watched happen here today. But a good way to look at this, and this is actually an idea that I did not come up with myself. I spoke with a guy. I'm gonna dive into this more after I think a little bit. But I want to give you just a key word here, and that key word is accumulation, right? And I'm going to dig into this much more. But this derives from Wyckoff theory. Now, the idea of this essentially is that there are periods of time similar to supply and demand zones, which I've talked about in the past, where institutions and big boys, big buyers, will try to load up stock in specific price points. points. And I've kind of found these two zones, accumulation being this green one, to be very critical for the stock. Anytime that the stock price comes down to this green box right here, it typically will hover around, consolidate, bounce around a little bit, and then it'll come back up and it'll kind of juke you out. And it's been repeating that over and over for quite a while now, months, right? Months, really, since I would argue back in July, mid-July, July 16th or so. And every time it has dipped down into that box, you can bet, right? It has to have done this. People are loading the boat because then the stock price goes back up. Who controls the market? Who controls the SPY? Who controls the majority of stocks? It's big buyers that decide which way they want to move the price around while people are doing what they do, right? Think of it like this. The longer that this accumulates, the more shares that are built up by everyday average people like you and me, the apes, by institutions, the bigger the explosion this could really freaking have. I'm telling you, there's a reason this thing's not tanking, that it's hovering. It's going back and forth, doing the freaking juking out your emotions sort of nonsense that's been AMC for a while now. And it's because that's the way that they want it to be. They want to accumulate, whoever these people are, right? These institutions, accumulate as many shares and as many call options and as many blah, blah, blah as they can. In the meantime, while apes are waiting to see what actually ends up happening here. You know, that's my thought process on what you're watching right now. Is there are big boys loading up stock, and today, obviously being, I would say, an asterisk with the overall market pullback, is kind of an aside from that overall sentiment. So I'm looking for a bounce out of this green box. I don't really see this dropping much lower than that 31.69 mark. That I'll mark this right here in case you want to pause the video and check that out. And the reason I drew these up is very simple. I derive this from any time that you see a bounce back up in any sort of direction, right? You see a bounce right here, bounce right here, bounce right here, and a touch point right there as well. And in the same way, I drew up this red box as points in which you can maybe expect a sell-off, right? Very close, very close, very close. It hasn't quite come up all the way here, but nonetheless, this is where you see that sort of tiptoeing around back and forth. And those are the points in which I'm personally watching for. Could you move this green box up a little bit, the red box up a little bit, potentially, right? But the big thing for me is those zones being spots to look for potential reversal to give you some sort of comfort, right? Now, what I do want to talk about, now that we've gotten that out of the way, is this, because this is absolutely hilarious to me. There's actually a SpiderMan ticket that was listed on eBay, thankfully to Brandon Davis BD, tweeting this out, that went for $25,000. It was at least listed. I don't know if this sold. I'd have to check back up on it. If anybody knows, please let your boy know, because I've been wanting to know for sure. 25 grand for this ticket. You might be thinking to yourself, right? Why in the freaking doop would anybody pay 25 grand for a ticket that costs $13? And the simple answer to think about here is NFTs. That's 100% it. There are people out there that are looking at the value and the potential value of something that has 86,000 total supply. Think of that as the free float, right? That's how many actual NFTs are going to get issued in this instance, as a potential to make money. This is a guy who's betting 25 grand, and I'm not sure if he's right, I'm not sure if he's wrong, right? Maybe it's worth more, maybe it's going to be worth less, but he's betting that NFT is going to make him money in the long haul, or he wouldn't have offered 25 grand for it, right? And this brings me ultimately to the power of NFTs and why I think this is such a freaking sweet thing for AMC and, you know, rumored at the very least GameStop to be doing, right? It's an opportunity to create a sub-market for your investor core. And in that way, what I mean is you can, like I've mentioned before in videos, raise capital. Instead of doing a share dilution, you can freaking create NFTs such as this giveaway that's partnered up with Sony Pictures to raise capital in that way, right? I can guarantee you AMC made stupid, fat, filthy, freaking dumb stacks off of this promotion. They absolutely did. The tickets went absolutely nuts. And that's because of this exact God dang it, this exact thing, right? People see value and NFTs and the potential that they hold. So I think this could actually be something pretty solid. I'm excited to see the direction that AMC goes with this. But in that same way, it makes you start to wonder at least a little bit about what is happening with the NFT space. So I actually want to dive into this a little more. I'm going to make an in-depth video on NFTs in case there are people who are curious. I see a lot of people on Twitter talking about this. One of my favorites is Cher. The story behind Cher, I'll actually pull up that Twitter here really quick. Cher created her Twitter account based off of my chair. I had a folding chair in my house in North Carolina, and she took a picture of just a classic freaking folding chair. And I got that because I didn't want to buy a chair for that house yet. I was there for a couple weeks, but she was Trey's chair, and then she changed over to Chair NFT, and now sells NFTs and does some pretty freaking cool stuff with it. 40% of all NFT proceeds donated to charity, which I think is sick. This is just like one person that comes to mind. So I have kind of a side tangent, but nonetheless, I think there's a lot of opportunity in the future with this space, and it's interesting to talk about, especially when you consider the relevancy that it has with AMC, you know, and big businesses. I would love to see freaking GameStop, and I don't want to talk about this a whole lot, but that's, you know, my community was built around AMC. I'm just being, you know, true to you guys. But GameStop diving into NFTs in that space, I wouldn't be surprised to freaking see them form up some sort of partnership, and the blockchain technology behind that and what these guys can do with utility. That's what gets me excited for the long term. That's the kind of stuff that makes me want to stick around for the long term after the squeeze is all freaking said and done to be an investor. So I'm jacked about it. I think that we've got a lot of things to be happy about. It was a red day, but you got to zoom out, right? Macroscopically think about this. Today was a psychological test. It absolutely 250 million Hyakuman Pasento was a psychological test, because the entire market, right? All I have to do is look at the SPY, see that it's down 2%. Look at the freaking, you've heard me say boom boom candles. Look at this doom doom candle. That's a doom doom candle, right? That's the entire market having a bad day. Take a step back, freaking pop back a Coke or a Mellow Yellow, eat some chicken nuggies, and go on with your day, my friends. Life will go on. We're chilling. We're having a good time. That's what I've got for this freaking video. So, light taps from me and Titan. I think he's somewhere behind this curtain. I added this curtain to try and fix up some soundproofing issues. I have some panels up now, a couple of curtains. Hopefully that fixes up the problem. You guys let me know what you think. Catch you on the next one. Much love. Peace.